Frank Buddhist. George Mitsuo Hironaka, Masaru Kato, Bill Yaguchi, Christina Joy Clicks, George George Shoshi Terada, Betty Tanaka, Yoshiko Yamada, Thank you. For those of you who are able to rise, please do so for the Gaza Seiya, which is on page 163, and remain standing for the three treasures. The three treasures. Fortunate it is to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Rare is it to encounter the teachings of the Buddha. Now we hear it. If we do not seek the truth of the Dharma in this life, in what life shall we find it? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken within us our highest aspiration. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of the Dharma and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become units of true accord and a life of harmony in the spirit of universal order, free from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriad of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful teaching. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Bhagava's teachings. Thank you. Please be seated. Now we will have a message from the Lord.
Right button that time. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our service, and thank you so very much for joining us today. Please join me in Gassho for a reading of the collected works of Shinran. Observance of the precepts and seated meditation are called the right Dharma, but attainment of Buddhahood through the Nimbutsu is the true essence of the teaching. Doctrines that do not accept the Buddha's words are non-Buddhist ways. Views that reject the law of cause and effect are nihilistic. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Today we dedicate our service to those who have gone before us to the Pure Land of perfect peace during this month and years gone by. We remember our friends, our family, and our Dharma ancestors with warmth and happiness. By keeping those memories alive, or our loved ones alive, we can conceivably better understand ourselves. So the other day, I get a lot of my news I quit taking the newspaper because it started piling up and I'd have like 15 or 20 copies unread. And who wants to read, last month's news? So I read a lot of news. What news I do read, I should say, is online. It pops right up in my face every morning. So the other day I was reading some various articles, and I came across an article about crime and drug. And I followed the threads, and I just found all kinds of alarming facts. And some of this is kind of, well, I probably shouldn't say depressing, but it is a little bit. It says drug addiction and crimes are related to, they are two of the most persistent social problems in the United States today. And whether it's a problem with alcohol, or opioids, or cocaine, or any other substance, addiction kills thousands of Americans every year, and it impacts millions of lives. Addictions or substance abuse is very chronic. It runs hand in hand with mental health problems. An alarming statistic I found says almost 21 million Americans have at least one addiction. And I think if you counted addiction to food, I know you would have 21 million. I don't know how many more we would have. We'd have a lot more, I'm sure. But only 10% of these people who have these addictions receive some sort of treatment. And that's pretty scary. That's why we see so much out there. Drug overdoses, deaths have more than tripled since 1990. And one of the most damaging effects on our society is the direct impact that it has on crime and on safety, of the general population. Possessing and distribution of most drugs, except alcohol and marijuana here in Washington State, is a crime and is responsible for the majority of the arrests made each year in the U.S. And in addition to drug-related charges that it really strains our legal system. And drugs and alcohol really play a very distinct role in many other crimes. It's estimated between 25 and 50%, another high number, of the crimes are committed by someone under the influence of drug or alcohol. Nearly 60% of all robbery and thefts, property crimes, which led to incarceration, were committed under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Alcohol and drug addiction costs the U.S. economy over $600 billion every year. About 20% of Americans who have depression, that's why I was hesitant to use the word depression earlier, and anxiety wind up abusing substance abuse. More than 90% of people who have the addiction started out when they were around 18 years old. And as risk of drug abuse, it increases quite a bit during the times of transition. For an adult, if you get a divorce or a loss of a job, that can increase the likelihood of getting addicted to drugs. For a teenager, risky times comes when they're moving or when their parents are having problems or divorces. Or changing schools can get kids involved. And when the kids are around that age, we've got a grandson about that age, and I can see that he's facing a lot of issues right now. There's a lot going on there. So hopefully we can keep him from getting exposed to these drugs and can just say no. I think that's the best word. But after reading all these facts and wondering, I just wonder what's going on in our country. I remember when I was young, maybe, and some of you do too, maybe experimenting a little bit with alcohol, but not to the extent that we see it today. But we lost our moral compass in this nation. But despite of all these and many other evils in the world, most of us at our core, we just want to be good human beings. That's all. We just want to make the right choices and avoid making wrong decisions. What we usually don't count on is that question of what is right and what is wrong. And it may yield a different answer from different people. Sometimes what is your right might be my wrong, and vice versa. As I said, what is good for one person may not necessarily be good for others. I may be enjoying my cigarette, but it may not be pleasant for you. And what other people consider bad might be different from what you consider bad. So how can we determine what's right and what's wrong? What choice to make? So that's where what we call a moral compass comes into play. The dictionary defines moral compass as a person's ability to judge what is right and wrong and act accordingly. Some people also define it as a set of values that guides our decision making, affects our actions, and defines us as a person. I think a moral compass is just as its name suggests. It points you in the right direction. Even if all of us have different definitions of right and wrong, our moral compasses can provide an objective standard for us. It doesn't just help us see right and wrong, it helps us to see what must be done for the greater good and what is beneficial to other people as well as ourselves. You know, since the beginning of civilization, everyone is, from kings to philosophers to monks and scribes, have really wondered what the concept and what it means to live a good life. If you're a king, a good life might just mean a lot different than if you're, say, someone who kills the soil. A peasant, I guess would be the term. But without our moral compass to guide us, it's so easy to just do whatever is convenient. Never mind whether it's right or wrong. We just simply go ahead without some compass to guide us in our actions. It becomes so easy to stretch the truth whenever it benefits us. And we do things without thinking the consequences, both for us and for others. We become selfish, we become greedy monsters who only care about our own needs and our own wants. Forget that way around dinner time. But all human beings, so some people believe, and it seems like that all people are born with a moral compass. We have an innate sense of what is right and what is wrong. And sometimes I wonder about that because, you know, when I was little, we used to make a game of pulling the wings off the flies. I think everybody might have tried that at least once. Wouldn't do that now, but as we grow older, though, those instincts actually tend to fade. You know, those instincts of what is right and what is wrong. We start, I think when I was doing that or seeing flies misused, we somehow thought it was okay because, you know, flies are pests. You know. And so then we moved beyond that, I suppose. But our morals compass becomes twisted and corrupted as we get older. And it's also influenced by our life experiences, the environment that we grew up in, as well as a whole lot of other factors. And nearly 80% of Americans, this was a poll I picked up, I think it was a Gallup poll, they said that our overall state of our nation is fair to poor, as far as morality goes. In addition, respondents overwhelmingly hold the opinion that Americans are becoming much more selfish and much more dishonest. I think some of that's true. In fact, 77% of Americans believe the country's overall sense of morality is getting worse. You know, a lot of us that are a little older, I don't see anybody out there that's all that old, but we tend to think about the good old days, the way things were. And we do think maybe things are a little worse than they used to be. But a person's moral compass, as I said, is changed by our environment and many other factors. And taking the time to adhere to some sort of objective standard for moral or ethical behavior can help us do our part and keep most situations from just spiraling into some further crisis situation. We have some sort of moral standard, moral compass that we embrace. Now I have a little story here. I think I may have told it here before, but little stories sometimes need to be told again. And it's about adhering to one standard of ethical behavior and how it can lead into a crisis. There was a monk that lived in a cave on top of a mountain, and he stayed there meditating and doing the right thing, trying to attain enlightenment. And his benefactor, who lived down at the foot of the mountain, would bring up food from time to time. And the benefactor also had a beautiful daughter who would bring up supplies for the monk. And over time, she fell madly in love with this monk. Must have been a handsome fellow. look good in orange. Or black. Eventually she suggested that she would like to marry him. The monk replied, I cannot possibly do that. I am a celibate monk. I am sorry. But the lady was greatly disappointed and she returned back down the mountain, back to her father. The next time she went up the mountain, she brought a goat to offer to the monk. She then suggested that they could both slaughter the goat and have a feast together, hoping to maybe get a little closer to her. Oh no, I can't do that. I'm a Buddhist monk. I cannot kill a living thing. So back down the mountain she went. He sent her back down the mountain. The next time, she returned with a big jug of beer. A big one. Okay, she said, you cannot marry me, you cannot kill, but surely you can drink. So the monk thought about it a little bit. He said the fifth precept is the least important of the five. This is what he thought. The least harmful of all the precepts. And it'd be okay to drink a little beer. So he said, okay, we'll have a drink together. So they did. And they did. And they did. But being a celibate monk living on top of a mountain, probably was very hard to control himself. He's got beer and he's got a beautiful woman in front of him. What's he going to do? He got completely drunk, and in the process, he broke the third precept of celibacy. We knew that was coming, didn't we? Then, feeling hungry, he saw a chicken, and they decided to have it for food. So he broke the second precept of stealing, because he didn't know whose chicken it was. And then the first precept was broken when he killed the chicken. The next morning, when the neighbor asked if anybody had seen his chicken, the monk replied in the negative. He says, no, he said, I've not seen your chicken, therefore breaking this fourth precept of not to lie. Because this monk ended up breaking all five precepts because he thought the fifth precept on abstaining from alcoholic beverages or drink or mind-altering drugs was the least important of all. But it was very important. And there's an old saying that says, first the man takes the bottle, then the bottle takes the bottle, and then the bottle takes the man. Well, I guess that's what happened to him. I spent a lot of time on facts and figures today, which might not have been necessary, but I wanted to bring across the point of our moral compass. And I think a good moral compass for us Jodo Shinshu Buddhists is to adhere to these precepts, which are usually practiced by most, the first five precepts, which are usually most practiced by Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. Number one is to refrain from killing. Number two is to refrain from stealing. And by the way, I make this a lot simpler for myself, and Rona gives me a hard time about it. Because I always say, I shall endeavor to refrain from killing. She's like, that doesn't mean a lot. But can you really refrain from killing? You walk down the street, you're stepping on bugs, worms, ants, who knows, drive down. How many million bugs have you killed driving on the freeway? But you can endeavor to not do that. Maybe drive in the middle of the day when there's not so many bugs. I don't know. Number one, refrain from killing. Endeavor to refrain from stealing. Endeavor to refrain from lying, slandering, gossiping, or spreading rumors. Endeavor to refrain from sexual misconduct. And endeavor to refrain from taking intoxicants. I wanted to read you this because the Buddha tells us in the Sutra of Mindfulness on the right Dharma, he says, when people do not observe precepts, the devas or devas fall into decline and the asuras flourish. Asuras are fighting spirits. Good nagas are legendary beings who are usually half human, half snake, or half human and half some other animal. They're in the Hindu mythology as well as Buddhist. He says, the good nagas lose their power and the evil nagas gain power when people do not follow the precepts. When the evil nagas have power, there is frost, there is hail, as well as violent winds and ill rains out of season. I was thinking we've had a lot of hail lately, but it's been in season, so no problem. The 5 kinds of grain do not ripen. Epidemics arise and compete in virulence, and the people starve and kill each other. This is what happens when you don't practice the precepts. But when people do observe the precepts, the devas grow in awesome majesty, the asuras decline, and the evil nagas lose their power, while good nagas gain their power. When the good nagas have power, the winds and rains come at their proper times, and the 4 seasons are mild and harmonious. The nourishing rain falls, and the rice and grain is abundant. The people enjoy peace, and arms and warfare are put aside, and epidemics do not occur. But the Buddha goes on to caution us by saying, good sons, there are 4 acts that bring evil results. What are they? The first is to recite the sutras in order to surpass others. Okay? You're reciting the sutras and saying, listen to me, how good I'm chanting. I am so good. All right? I don't have that problem, obviously. If you ever hear me chant, wow. The second is to observe the precepts in order to gain profit or esteem. I don't know how you would do that, but somebody will figure out how to do it. The third is to practice charity in order to make others one's followers. You know, I think we see a lot of that today where people are doing, they have a certain amount of compassion, but a lot of it seems to be misguided. We probably need to take a closer look. I mean, if you jump up and say, okay, I donated this, I did that, and you're really trying to impress others with what a good person you are, I think that's what he's talking about. You don't need to do that by following the precept. The fourth is to fix and concrete your mind in order to reach the realm of neither thought nor no thought. These 4 good acts, when he's talking about reaching for either thought or no thought, that's in mind. So if you think you're following the precepts and you're getting closer to enlightenment, that's not necessarily the case. So these are the 4 things you do. Shinran goes on, and he reminds us that in this day and age, the day and age of Maya, we lack both the observance of the precepts and the comprehension of wisdom. But when we allow ourselves to be carried on the ship of Amitabha's vow, we've crossed this ocean of suffering, that is birth and death, and we attain the shore of the Pure Land. And the dark clouds that blinds us will swiftly clear, and the moon of enlightenment, true reality, will immediately appear. He says, becoming one with the unhindered light filling the 10 quarters, we will benefit all sentient beings, not just ourselves, but all sentient beings. It is at that moment that we attain enlightenment. So to close my rather long and rambling talk today, join me again in God's show, please. Not choosing the learned and those upholding the pure precepts, nor rejecting those who break precepts and whose evil karma is profound. When beings just turn about at heart and often say the Nembutsu, it is at bits of rubble returned into gold. This is birth through the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Again, thank you for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Sensei, for your Dharma message. Please rise for the Gatha. Psalm 2, it's found on page 153 of your service book, and remain standing afterward for the daily creed of Buddha Shinshu. Please read along with me, thank you. Daily Creed, Jodo Shinshu. Realizing enlightenment is assured and reciting Nibbutsu, I shall live my life cheerfully and positively. Understanding the oneness of life and cultivating self-reflection, I shall diligently attend my life's tasks in gratitude. Recognizing the Dharma path, I shall help spread the teachings of the Buddha. Appreciating the Buddha Dharma, I shall respect and help others, working for the good of society. Thank you. Please be seated. Oh, I guess I can ask this for the first time. Do we have any new guests today? Anyone like to introduce themselves? Thank you. Move along with that. Announcements. We had a great plant sale yesterday. There were still some plants, thanks to help, a lot of hard work from a lot of people, Mary Cotter and a whole bunch of folks. But there might still be some plants under the big tree out here. You're welcome to. If you find something that you like, please give it a good home. Any other announcements?
Good morning. Okay, so a couple announcements. As Georgia just mentioned, yes, there are plants available underneath the tree. Gladly accepting donations in case you want to leave one. There'll be a box out there for donations as well. I just want to recognize Mary Cogger in particular for her great work yesterday. So thank you very much. I think Mary might be a little poop from yesterday, so no worries there. The second thing that I'll note is that on the 22nd of May, we'll be having a large memorial service for all those who passed away during the last 2 years. It will take place here at the temple, and there's a letter about it in the foyer, so please save the date for the 22nd of May. The second thing is that we are having our flower bouquet plant sale. Flowers are now on sale. You can go to wrbt.square.site to order online, or you can use an order form that's also in the foyer. Orders are due May 21st for pickup on May 28th. Let's see here. At the end of the month, we will be having our memorial services at the 4 cemeteries that we usually have them. More information is in the newsletter. And then on June 5th, we will be having a goodbye picnic for Reverend Jim. It will be outdoors and we're going to be catering. So please don't bring any food. Please do not bring any food. We're going to cater it all in and make sure that no one has to do any work. But it's a great opportunity to say goodbye to our gym as well as Verona as well. And then, of course, on June 11th, we have our rummage sale. If you have things that you're cleaning out your house or would just like to donate, we're taking donations and they can be left in the multi-purpose room over there. It seems we have a couple of tables worth of stuff already. So if you have any questions about anything I just said, refer to the newsletter or let me know if you, or feel free to come up to me after service. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other announcements? Okay. Those of you who haven't had an opportunity to come up making an offering or workshop, welcome to do so after the service is concluded. Thank you for your attendance. Please be safe, and we look forward to seeing you another